If you're listening on podcast, be sure to tune into Wild and Weird West Virginia for additional content on our YouTube channel.
Welcome to Wild and Weird Radio, a Wild and Weird West Virginia podcast. Welcome back to Wild and Weird Radio, everybody. We have got a really interesting show prepared for you tonight. But before we go any further, go ahead and mash that like and subscribe button over there on YouTube. And don't forget to hit the notification bell because we've got more content coming your way on a regular basis. And it's more stuff than just this show. So if you want to keep up with everything that we're doing, you want to be notified and be ready when it drops because we put out some pretty good stuff, in our opinion. Maybe.
Sometimes.
But yeah, so we've got a really good show prepared for you guys. And the this is probably one of the stranger shows I think we've ever done.
Yeah, I would say that's clear. Yeah, it's probably going to be one of the stranger ones. Yeah. It
comes at a good time, too, because we've got minimal news and we can go really long on the weird stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing wrong with the weird stuff going along on it. Yeah, like Joe said, just make sure you're liking, you're sharing, you're subscribing over on the YouTube part of this. If you're not listening to YouTube or watching the YouTube part, then click down there in the comments and you'll see the link and I think in the description or something. I'll put it there for you. You'll find it. Don't worry. I always do that. It's that movie magic stuff, you know.
And it comes in handy, you know, if you're ever listening to us while you're driving in your car and you hear us talking about something specific and you want to see what that looks like. Sometimes we got pictures added in. Otherwise, you're just stuck looking at our ugly mugs and having to deal with us. But
that's right. And
it's good content.
It is. And also tonight at some point, I'm going to be doing something, Joe.
Oh, yeah?
Yep. And you guys who are listening, that's me turning the page right now. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be writing down a number. And when this number shows up on the screen, it'll only be there for a little bit, by the way. It's just going to be intermittently put into the show at some point. When you guys see that, the first person who comments on that here in the comment section on the YouTube channel, we're gonna get a hold of you and you're gonna get something.
It's going to be a pretty fun little giveaway.
So, yeah. So if they don't beat you to it, guys, the ones who are listening to it, because I know you guys usually get to hear it before the podcast actually broadcasts on YouTube. We always do that. And, you know, you got something to look forward to there. So after you hear it, go over and watch it, too, and be the first one. And, yeah, you're going to get something cool.
Yeah. You'll be able to kind of time it out and your time bar over to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
If you've listened to it ahead of time.
Maybe you won't really know where it's at though.
Oh, you're just going to insert it somewhere random. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be completely random. And we're going to be doing this because this is part of the 1000 celebration. So we'll be doing this right up, you know, until we hit that magical number too. So, you know, keep watching.
And guys, we're really close.
We're super close.
Just a few of you all telling some of your friends about the show, we could hit that 1,000 marker on YouTube by Christmas. It's in reach.
Yeah, so easy. And you know what's really funny is, you know, that's nothing to some of these people, but to us it means a lot because I know that the people who are here listening to us actually want to be here to listening to us and watching us. So yeah. You know, thanks. That means a lot. It really does. Okay, so enough of that. Let's get to the news desk, right?
Let's get at it because there wasn't a whole bunch of news, but some of the stuff that was in it was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most interesting piece to me this week was the Northrop Grumman release of the B-21 Raider.
The old Raider, yeah.
This thing is a beast.
Mm-hmm. It really
and,
is.
The camera angles were forced by the Air Force to only be viewed from nose level, and that's it. No other images were shown. We'll insert an image here about what this thing looked like and what the description that was given, but you can make your own assertions because it's being done on purpose. They did the same thing with the last stealth bomber that was released, and it's no mistake. The visualization is clear, especially with everything going on in the government right now. It's pretty interesting. But this thing has some serious power. It's going to be able to deliver serious payload, long range, without a pilot.
Yeah, it has the option to be piloted or pilotless. So it has multiple modes, which is just terrifying, to be honest with you.
Right.
Because of what this thing's built for. This is a nuclear deterrent, which the first one was too, to be honest. And, but it can also drop conventionals as well, which is what the first one was used for as well. But you're looking at this robot army, dude. That's what you're looking at. You're looking at a potential for a robot army. I'm going to say it because it has to be said. If it's remote controlled, how hard would it be to put a module in that thing to make it AI at some point?
Yeah, it would be very easy, in my opinion.
You talk about fire and forget, dude.
We've already got drones that can be flown using AI.
Yeah.
So what's the next? This is the next logical step.
Oh, it absolutely is. And it's just, like I said, this is a terrifying weapon. It really is. And, it's part of the new arms race. That's what it is. This is the Cold War Part 2. And for those who don't know what that was, go back and look at a little bit of history's lessons there, and you're going to see the same thing happened. I mean, people just invested in insane amounts of technology, insane amounts of war machines. And to be honest with you, a lot of your technology today, guys, that you're walking around with, that came from the Cold War.
It is.
That really
it was a byproduct.
Yeah, it was a byproduct of the Cold War. So, the funny thing is, war is terrible, but war also, for some reason, every time there's a war, there's this boom in technology shortly afterwards. So, unfortunately, that's what it takes for humans to advance, I suppose.
Yeah, we're bad about using technology for ulterior purposes and then commercializing it for the consumer.
Mm-hmm. It's true. It's very true. Hey, speaking of which, I'm going to touch on this real quick because I know a lot of people are doing it. It's the latest fad. What about that AI art thing, buddy? What about that? Huh?
This AI art thing is driving me absolutely bonkers.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you just a few months ago?
How
fast.
And it started with the art where you would type in what you wanted to see, and then it would generate it for you and what it thought it looked like. Basically just pulling images and combining things and making something out of nothing. And the ramifications of this is just insane because as artists, I refuse to use it.
Oh yeah.
I refuse to use it.
Yeah, I'm not using it. And furthermore, I don't know if people know this, but if you do use it, you can't use it for anything commercial.
No,
that's in the actual license. You're not creating anything.
No, you're not.
You're basically just being used to help train these things.
It can be used for commercial.
Yes,
they can use it themselves for commercial purposes.
They can.
It's just that you don't own it. Not one bit.
Nope.
And they're using other people's artwork.
Absolutely.
They're using pre-existing work and modifying it. And that's called theft because the people.
Is it amazing though? It is amazing.
Yeah.
It is amazing for technology to do this. It
is, but it's just
the word you're looking for
dirty.
is unethical. That is the word you were looking for.
Yeah, it's icky. Like,
And do you know why it's unethical? Not just because it's going to put artists out of business. Um, it's unethical because it's creating its own market.
it is.
Right now it's free, right, to do this because you're
Oh,
literally,
the good ones you got to pay for.
well, you're going to have to pay for them all eventually because
Yeah.
it's probably going to be a plug-in that you have to buy,
Yeah.
or a service that you pay X amount of dollars for so you can have unlimited amounts of creative freedom to use these in commercial, products.
Yep.
I can see that happening, by the way.
I can too,
That's
man.
that's on the horizon. So much like right now, the last generation of pilots is probably being
Being
trained.
born.
You're being born, yeah, and going to be trained. I'd say
Yeah.
you're looking at the same thing with commercial artists. I really do. It may be just a couple more decades, but
Because
there will
I got a
be no
feeling
more.
what we're going to wind up seeing is before we see like the AI pilots, we will have just remote pilots.
Hmm. Right.
And
Absolutely.
and so they're still going to be trained. They're still
Mhm.
going to have to learn how to fly, but they're just going to be flying from a computer screen.
Right, man. It's just like the
And
guy who stands at Kroger or
yep,
any of your grocery stores, right? And he's just standing there and watching over all those machines because they still
yep,
have to have a human element right now.
yep. Currently,
Yeah.
for
But
now,
yeah, for now. And that's the key word. And these people are like, oh, you're being an alarmist. There's no such thing as AI. And okay, that's cool. You can think that. I mean, you really can. But if you do any serious research, you'll think otherwise about that really quick.
oh yeah,
But back to the whole art thing. Um, Personally, like you said, it's something I'm not going to use it. I can generate that kind of stuff myself from here,
right.
and I don't need it to do that. And I just don't like the idea of training, our overlords.
Well, the other thing that people aren't looking at is the invasion of privacy that is taking place.
That's a
When
good
you
point. That's
when
a
you
good
use
point.
this product,
Yeah.
your free use or the fact that you're paying for use with a few of these different apps, you're giving them your likeness.
Hmm. Yeah. And a few
You
years
can now
ago,
be used in any kind of background cartoon, any
whatever.
kind of imagery, anywhere, because they own the license to your face now.
Well, they own the
When,
license to the geometry of your face.
right,
So
not your
that's what
actual
people.
face, but
But
they
here's the
can.
scary part. What
Yeah.
you just said. They own your face, right?
Yep.
And now I can literally take some of my programs, and I've done it. We made you into an alien before.
We did.
What we do is we map your geometry. If I can map your two-dimensional geometry, I can make you in 3 dimensions.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't understand what that means, in time, that means that we can make digital recreations, video recreations of people. That's what
Yeah.
that means.
Really, really, really good deep fakes.
Really, really good deep fakes. That's what it can come down to. And yeah, does that sound like conspiracy theory? It does, but it's also within the realms of actual technology and science at this point.
Well, I
And
mean, just
you know,
look at it this way. Look at it this way. Is it conspiracy theory though? Because people like us, I mean, we were some of them, warned about what was going on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those years ago. Not that, there were anything super malicious or bad, or
right,
that they were
right,
trying to overthrow the world or take over anything, but
right.
that by using it, you are rendering some of your freedoms null.
Mm-hmm. You are.
We all use it. I use it. I know what I'm giving up using it. And it's something that I've come to terms with, and I'm okay with it because, terms of use. and,
right.
and they sell our data and we don't make any penny off of it.
Right.
That's the biggest thing. These companies are going to be selling your geometry. They're going to be selling the likenesses of you to anybody to use as filler for anything because they're allowed to do that. You can't, but they can. And
Yeah.
it's because of the precedents that social media has established years ago that allows these big tech companies to do that.
Well, what's crazy about it to me is a few years ago when, iPhone, for example, came up with the late breaking technology at the time of facial recognition, everybody went crazy and said, I'm getting rid of my phone. It can see my face and freaked out. And, there was huge backlash against that. And then some of the
Yeah.
apps that did the same thing. And people were like, oh, I'm deleting that. But
Yep.
this we're saying, oh, this is amazing.
Right.
Build a
Because they
better
packaged it
mousetrap.
right.
They built, yeah, exactly. They packaged it right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and that's what I feel about that. So sorry to have gone on a tangent there about that, but that was kind of
It's
relevant.
worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah, it's kind of relevant,
So
anyway.
one last thing special in the news. We have a date now for our next workshop. The paranormal workshop is going to be held January 7th in Beckley, West Virginia at the Deep End Antiques. We're going to be announcing the price and everything for that soon. You're going to be getting goodies at this event, just like you do at all of our other workshops where you get a goodie bag for coming. And anybody who's attended any of our previous workshops knows that these return on what you get is well worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your return on your investment is going to be definitely well worth it. And I can, without saying too much, I can say that you're going to get something that's going to help you further your investigative career in the paranormal.
Yes, absolutely. And, it's fun too. It's just sinking fun. We have a great time at these events. Everybody who attends loves them. This is going to be the first one of 2023. And then we have a Bigfoot one planned for the spring and the fall. And we're going to be planning other workshops throughout the year. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that because those are going to be announced on the podcast and on YouTube pretty much before they're going to go anywhere. Our listeners are going to be the first people that know about these. So that way they can come hang out with each other. Use these as meet and greets for each other. These are your peers, basically. Come hang out with people that you might not be friends with, but you already have interests in common. It's a great place to just hang out and have fun and learn something new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just never know who you're going to meet. That's the fact.
That's right.
Yeah.
And and there's something big coming too here soon.
Asteroid?
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. That's more about the topic later. But we've got a really, really, really awesome episode coming out really soon. And it is about the recreation account when we went out to the site that was in Logan, West Virginia, where we collected thermal imaging of a possible Sasquatch, a track cast of a possible Sasquatch, and some other evidence. You definitely will not want to miss this.
Yeah, it's pretty good stuff. That's all I'm going to say about that for right now because it's still being edited. So yeah, don't want to ruin that for anybody, but it will be pretty good. It'll be part of our new series, by the way. That's again without saying too much. So, speaking of asteroids, we had an incredible event.
We did indeed, and
I missed.
Some of the best footage actually came from right next door to us.
Yeah, Nitro,
West Virginia. That was the viral footage that went nuts of this meteorite.
It was the first one, yeah. The first footage
that cruised through our atmosphere and broke up, and it created a spectacular show.
Absolutely amazing. I did not witness it, unfortunately. I had just came inside. I was out there looking up at the sky at the time, believe it or not, and I was watching a strange little red light moving toward the moon very slowly, and I'm like, "What is that?" So I was filming that. Come to find out, that was some sort of just aircraft because it was started flashing strobes, and I was like, oh, disappointed, and turned around and went back inside. Had I not been disappointed and turned around and stayed inside, I would have been there in time to have witnessed this event. And I had my camera out. So yeah, kicking myself, you could say that. Yes, absolutely. I took this one very personal.
And the sky was nice and clear too, so you would have had a great view of it.
It was crystal. It was absolutely crystal, and I had a great view of the horizon where I was at. So anyway, what happened there was, as you said, it was a massive fireball. I immediately went over to the American Meteor Society the American Meteor Society.org, which is where I typically go whenever we get a fireball sighting or something like that to check. At the time, there was about 80 some unconfirmed reports that had come in. By midnight that night, they had confirmed it, and it was at 90 something. A little later, it had gone up to like 300 and something. Now it sets at roughly 19 videos, 3 photos, and there are 1,096 witness reports. The trajectory of this thing was moving pretty much straight across the United States, and heading due east.
Yeah.
Which was really crazy because if you look at the trajectory, it literally goes right over top of the Chestnut Ridge.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That place is weird enough already, but that's just
Isn't that wild? Yeah, it's wild. Yeah. But we'll throw a link over there to you. You can go watch those videos, and they're really good. There's a lot of people who have some really good videos of this thing coming in. So we ready to close up the news desk, you think? And be done with it for this week, considering it was minimal, and kind of go into that next topic because it's kind of relevant.
It is. Yeah, let's go ahead and wrap up the news desk.
Okay, let's do that. All right, so it's kind of relevant, right? I mean, that's an understatement, kind of.
Yeah, understatement. Little on the nose. This week's episode is all about strange skyfalls.
Yeah. And, a lot of people consider that or might consider that to be nothing more than just funny stories. I mean, you guys heard the old saying, right? Raining cats and dogs, stuff like that.
Frogs, fish, and lizards,
meat, stones, jelly. Yeah. I mean, it's real. I mean, at least I guess it's real because, you got this many people reporting this stuff. Something happened, right?
Yeah, and how else do we explain some of it? Either way, it's bizarre phenomena regardless, because it's happening. You have a lot of people reporting these weird instances, like you'd mentioned, and it is just real strange. I mean, you get really weird stuff because it's like, okay, we get it. It can rain frogs and fish and all that stuff. That's bizarre weather phenomena. Okay. There's been meteorologists who have actually tracked the source of these things down. Makes total sense. We get it. But when you start getting weird gelatinous goo and fibrous tissue and weird things like that, yeah, it gets a little strange. So we're going to talk about some of that tonight.
Yeah, I think so. So let's give a little bit of a backstory on some of this stuff and read some of these accounts because, again, some of them are pretty old.
Yeah, it goes back into the 1600s. Mm-hmm. There's this report that came out about a luminous meteor, and it was seen over Leigh, India, and it was just gross. It was gross. It was gross, and by gross you mean this was what? In 1652. Okay, and near the landing place was this weird star jelly. Mm-hmm. At least that's the way that is kind of described. Yeah, we'll go into more star jelly stuff later, but yeah, that's exactly what they called it. And like how? Like I don't know. Just so I don't weird. Know. I don't know, but it's been reported at other meteorite fall sites. It has a weird jelly-like substance that's near, around it, and I don't know what to tell you about that. I really don't, because, like you said, this was, from the 1600s, and it still continues. Like these reports still have come in modern day. So, yeah. But here's another one for you. A fibrous substance resembling blue silk fell in great quantities in Naumburg, Germany, southwest of Leipzig. Is that right? Leipzig. Sorry. Yep. Leipzig. Forgive me, our German friends. All 4 of you. Hey, they come and listen. They come and hang out with us in Lexington, Kentucky every year. It's part of a tradition now. So we love you guys. Exactly. And but yeah. So that weird. So the silk fibers. Mm-hmm, how do we go from jelly to silk fibers.
So
Like-
why? I mean, it's not just jelly and silk fibers, though. Here's one from before Easter in 1666. A 2-acre field at Cranston Head near Rotherham, Kent, England, was found covered with numerous fish the size of a man's little finger, believed to have fallen during a violent thunderstorm, and were agreed by all who saw them to be young whiting. Joe, these are whiting that fell out of the sky.
Yeah. And this phenomena is one of the ones that we had mentioned that meteorologists have really dug into, and they've found proof of how these things do happen. And whiting, anybody who fishes, goes out and does any kind of coastal fishing, whiting, when they're young, fingerlings, they're going to be setting right along the shoreline. These fish are going to be within the first probably 20 feet of the shore, because they eat on the small invertebrates and whatnot that get churned in the sand. That's their main diet, that and some of the bacteria. And when you have a water spout, any listeners who live along the coast, I've seen several water spouts when I lived in Florida. These things can pull debris and launch it miles inland. And this is one of those weird instances, because you have all these small whitings, and it said they were young whitings, so about the size of your finger. And that would have been something that could have been pulled from a water spout. And those are just a trip. Like, to think that you can basically vacuum and yeet a fish or a frog that far inland is just insane. Because you had the thunderstorm to go along with it, so it all correlated. And it's a trip.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But the weird part about it, in my opinion, is that they didn't mention any kind of wind on this one, Joe. They didn't mention any kind of strange atmospheric phenomena on this particular
Well, you had a
case.
thunderstorm.
Well, okay. I suppose that you're saying that, much like hail, right? That, because hail can fall out of a clear blue sky due to a thunderstorm,
It can.
updrafts.
Yep.
I could see that. Okay. I will give you this one. Weather. So let's say that the weather pulled up the whiting from 6 miles away and dumped them onto this town.
Yeah.
I'll give you that one.
Well, there's been weird stuff that fell down in Mobile, Alabama from Pensacola Beach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, it's possible to move, and that's farther than 6 miles, so it's possible to move some stuff as long as you got that altitude. You get it up there and you have the right kind of current and the weight's right, that stuff can drift for a while.
Well, especially if we're considering it was in 1666. I mean, not much was known about weather, was it? I mean,
it wasn't.
There's a thunderstorm, it rains, the sun comes out. That's about the gist of your weather.
That's about as far as you got.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, it may be windy. Yeah, wind's blowing.
Yep.
And that's literally how it worked. So there was another one, however, where multiple toads fell from the sky in such vast numbers that local people were greatly inconvenienced. That was in October of 1683. That was in northern England.
Yeah, and this one actually involved them sweeping the remains of these toads up to have them burned.
Buckets full of toads.
Now I don't know about you guys. This is going to be gross, so bear with me. Toads, when they get stressed out, they swell up with air. It's a defense mechanism. So you now have all of these air-filled toads falling at terminal velocity and popping
I can't even imagine
water balloons on the street.
Yeah, I cannot
Can you imagine
even
the sound?
No.
I mean, it's going to be incredibly loud if you're indoors, but if you're outside and you just hear that,
that's pretty much accurate, I'd say. Yeah. I mean,
it would just be so disgusting as well.
I just don't even know how, what to think about frogs from space, falling,
Right.
impacting and exploding all over the streets. Yeah. Anyway, so there was that one. There was black dust in 472 BC, which I think personally, this one could have possibly been remnants of like a volcanic activity
Yeah,
or
that would
even a meteor impact, possibly. Who knows?
Yep.
Something like that.
Any kind of instance that would have caused like a tremendous amount of carbon.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. More
and
frogs.
Back then, it would have traveled extremely long distances because the atmospheric density was nothing like what it is today.
And again, we have more frogs because apparently that's a thing. This one was following its account a deluge of frogs on the village
deluge
of
of toads. Yes,
Little Lane, France, 1794.
And so again, we have these falling amphibians, and the description for the 1794 incident was that it was very hot. Suddenly, at around 3:00 in the afternoon, there fell switching abundance of rain. 150 men of the Grand Guard, in order to not be submerged, were obliged to leave a large depression. So this is actually like a really severe rainfall. So you're talking, if they were urged to leave, you're probably talking about, in modern terms, this is probably something along the tune of like 3 to 6 inches an hour.
Yeah, this was a flash flood, basically, is what they're saying.
Yep, it was very much a flash flood. And when they got to the place that they were hiding, much to their surprise, there began to fall on the ground, all about, in considerable numbers, toads, about the size of hazelnuts, which began to jump about in every direction. So these guys survived.
Yeah. Frogs from space.
But the ones in England clearly didn't, because they were sweeping them up and burning them.
Yeah. Exploded toads.
And so these guys survived their fall. Probably had to do with a little bit of their size, too, if they're about the size of hazelnuts.
Yeah.
And during this rainstorm, which lasted about a half an hour, the men on guard felt very distinctly on their hats and on their clothing the blows as they were being struck by fallen toads.
Can you
as
imagine?
The final proof of the reality of this phenomenon?
I mean, if you didn't need more proof of the reality of the phenomenon, you just got beamed by frog blasts. I mean, what in the world?
Well, you had these instances even called back like in biblical times. You had the curse of the toads, where it rained frogs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's just it's a phenomena that has been going on for a long time. Frogs, specifically frogs.
So I have to ask, because apparently this has happened. Have you personally ever heard of frogs falling out of the sky?
I have, actually.
Oh, geez.
And I heard about it from a guy that I was stationed with in Pensacola who lived in Louisiana.
Okay.
So his was revolving around, again, this is a thunderstorm, but it was around, he lived down in the swamps, down in the bayou. This is the same guy that taught me how to do a crawfish boil.
Mm.
And he not only said that it was, frogs coming out of the sky, but he even said that there were a few baby alligators. I mean,
okay. Wait,
I just
stop.
Right then and there, I was like, this guy has a real good story.
For alligators.
It was a baby, not big, baby alligator. So about a
baby alligators.
8 to 10 inch alligator.
An 8 to 10 inch alligator falling out of the sky, though. I mean,
yeah, that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
And it's only at that moment, it's only logical that sharks would be caught up in a tornado. Yeah. I mean, that is the next logical thing.
The next logical thing, Sharknado. Absolutely. That's where my mind went as soon as I heard of alligators.
And but yeah, he said it was baby alligators. There were snakes and frogs.
So hurricane, waterspout?
It had to have been a waterspout. He said it was like a thunderstorm, but there had to have been a waterspout somewhere in the swamp, because that's the only thing that makes sense. But to catch up that big of a thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like the frogs, who knows? Because over in France and in England, the frogs they obviously don't have alligators, so that wouldn't happen. But much to their surprise, if that had happened, that would have been really bizarre.
Well, that would have been really, important data.
right?
I
But
think so.
dragons fell henceforth from the sky.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, he had actually mentioned that had happened in it was like sometime in the early 90s, and he had never.
Wow.
It started with frogs, and then he said things just continued to get bigger as they fell. and we're like, we just looked at him like, dude, are you for real? He's like, oh yeah. And he actually, even because this is back in the day, like when cell phones were kind of brand new as far as the consumer level goes, he actually got his mom on the phone and had her verify the story to us. It was a trip.
Wow.
But me, myself, I have not personally seen any kind of amphibians falling from the sky.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Yeah.
Now, I have had, when I was younger, grew up in the country near water sources and whatnot. After the storms that would come through, there'd be frogs out, on the roadway and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I had heard stories of that, by the way, growing up. And I always wondered, could that be what people were seeing? Was this, after the rains, the frogs were out hopping around, because they're more active, they're more lively.
Amphibians are all like that. It's the same thing. So I'd be seeing salamanders and all that stuff too crawling around right after it rains because the activity spikes because suddenly the roadway, which is normally this treacherous, dry environment and hot, is now cool and wet and they can cross it.
Yeah, exactly. So, I just thought about that. Like, could it be something to that nature as well? Especially when we're dealing with 1800s and 1700s,
Yeah.
These were.
Well, I mean, these guys in France were talking about they could feel them beating them about their head and shoulders.
Well, that's a good point. We have to dismiss that one particularly because.
But the
clearly,
one in England, it very well could have been because those seemed to be larger animals. I mean, if you're going to scoop them up to go burn them,
I just can't imagine that.
That's a lot.
So that's a lot. It's not only that's a lot. That's just a lot of disgusting is what that is. That's just.
It really is.
Gore from space.
Now, yeah, right. Now let's get a little off of the weird animal phenomena that falls from the sky and into some of the more terrifying stuff that can fall from the sky. So in June of 1642, lumps of burning sulfur the size of a man's fist fell from the sky onto the roofs of Lohberg Castle, 18 miles from Magdeburg, Germany.
I'm going to say the devil did it.
The devil. I mean, burning sulfur. Like, was there a volcano that exploded
demons,
somewhere near?
No, that's demons.
Burning sulfur.
Something that just doesn't happen.
No, not unless some kind of weird hellmouth opens up around you, or a volcano, I guess, maybe, but
Possibly.
Of sulfur. You're breathing sulfur gas. So if like the chunks of burning sulfur don't kill you, the gas will.
Mm-hmm.
Good. I mean, that'd be terrifying.
Yeah.
So German naturalist Alexander von Humboldt. I wish I had that last name.
Von Humboldt?
Von Humboldt. Do you know the kind of Bigfoot research we could do if my last name was von Humboldt?
Yeah,
we would be on every TV show ever, just because of that name.
Yeah, it's true.
He traveled widely in South America, providing the following account of fish balls.
Yeah, it does say that.
Andes.
It actually says fish balls in the Andes. It really does. That's a direct quote. Yes. You can try to say it with a straight face, but you can't.
You can't. Like fish ball, like, okay, in the Andes, like they'd be frozen. So it'd be frozen chunks of fish.
Yeah, right. It would be.
Like,
yes.
Is this one of those accounts where like the aliens are flying overhead and they empty their toilet or something?
I mean, is it? Because that's been a theory for a long time. There has been postulation that these falls, these weird falls, are the result of UFO activity, and they have been seen
now
with UFO activity as well. As
That's
we'll find
right.
out
Some of them
shortly.
have gone alongside UFO activity. You're not. That's dead on. But those seem to be like of a different nature.
They do, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like those are less burning sulfury
And meat and dead frogs and fish,
right?
stones,
Like
and sulfur.
Unless these are all like byproducts of some kind of experiment, and they're like, okay, let's offload this stuff.
I mean,
it goes.
We would do it, right?
Beam it back down.
Just saying.
Somebody set the beam to horizontal instead of down. Just,
yeah.
Oops. Do a real quick flyby and empty the tanks.
But what's really funny though, Joe, is these accounts that we're reading. I mean, these are from actual credited journals of the day.
Yeah, I know.
And
these happened. These weren't instances where people were like using them as flash sale topics.
No.
This is just because these weren't headlines. These were buried in the newspaper. You'd have to read through like, oh, this person saw fish balls in the Andes. And I guess the logic that they tried to use was with earthquakes, which preceded every eruption in the mountain chain of the Andes. They shake with a mighty force, and the entire mass of the volcano and the subterranean vaults would be opened up and emit at the same time water, fish, and tufa mud. And tufa mud, if anybody who doesn't know what that is, it's like
it's tufa.
It's tufa.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this this mass of really porous, just salty, briny stone. And it's not quite lava stone because you can actually crumble it in your hands. But when this stuff comes out at like piping hot magma temperatures and it gets on you, it's almost like white phosphorus. So it's real sticky and gummy. And whatever it would touch, it would grab and would stick to it as it cooled. So keep that image in your mind.
Balls of fish from a volcano?
Yeah, I mean, not from a volcano. Like the logic behind this one just really doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
They're using this excuse that like there were underground vaults of water that would open up and the fish wouldn't come out. There's only a handful of species of fish that live in caves.
Yeah.
And they're all very distinct.
Oh yes, absolutely.
They're all blind. They're all about
Typically,
6 inches in length. That's it. So this is just some weird, strange phenomena. Like, how else do you get fish balls in the Andes?
I don't know. I just like hearing you say fish balls. Right? It is funny.
Like, if anybody, just to give you a point of reference, like there's these tufa stones in right outside of Yosemite National Park. It's out by Mono Lake. It's one of the saltiest bodies of water on the planet. And these tufa stones will just jut up out of the ground seemingly. But they're just deposits of the minerals. But you can get an idea for what that stuff looks like. There's no fish trapped in those.
No, there's nothing trapped in those.
No. And it doesn't make any sense at all. Like this explanation, mind you, is from 1698.
Yeah, it was. And, it's good to know that in 1698, they were still desperate enough to try to come up with an answer that they would use volcanoes, earthquakes, and tufa mud. But I got one better for you than that. Because on May 5th, 1786, something weirder was reported. And on this one, the last day of a drought that lasted since the previous November, that's a long drought, a great quantity, not of rain, but of black eggs fell on Port-au-Prince, Haiti. And some of the strange animals from the sky were preserved in a flask of water. The creatures shed their skin several times and resembled tadpoles. What?
Like, okay, tadpoles don't shed their skin.
Well, these
so
did.
Like that throws it out because you could go back to the the last day of the drought. That means a storm came.
Sure.
You could go back to the whole water spout excuse, but this is a tropical island. I've been to Haiti. I don't remember seeing any frogs. At least not like the kind that would be out near where
Falling
a
from
water
the
spout.
sky. No, I'm kidding.
Right. At least not the kind that would be out near where a water spout would be. These would be out in the middle of a jungle. You know, they're like little tree frogs. So, but they don't shed their skin.
No, frogs don't shed their skin, and typically the eggs don't hatch the next day.
No, they don't.
What would have been the odds of them finding eggs that were, just ready to hatch? And
Like,
those eggs
I wonder how
surviving.
big those eggs were. Because it doesn't say.
No, it doesn't say. Isn't that a fascinating story, though?
It really is, because I mean, it gets stranger and stranger the more you adjust. Like, well, how big were these eggs? Were they the size of like a sesame seed? Were they the size of a grape?
Yeah.
The inhabitants of that egg get bigger and bigger and bigger as it goes.
Yeah. I mean, so, again, UFOs, that comes into play with that possible theory, seeding the earth comes into the possibility there too. Who knows? I'm just saying, these are things that we have to throw out. There are other things we can throw out too. But since we're on the UFO train there, don't hear about it. Every now and again you hear about it, but you don't hear about it as much as you did. When I was growing up, we heard about it a lot, and that was the phenomenon of angel hair. Yeah. And that's not the stuff that we put on our Christmas trees. The stuff that we put on our Christmas trees is called, remember, it was called angel hair back in the day. That was the thing that they put on there. And that's where this particular term kind of came from, because that's what it looked like. It looks like strands of like gossamer, silk, or cotton. And it glistens.
Really, really weird. And, Stan, the last time we had Stan on the show, Stan mentioned that he had actually researched a phenomena that took place like this on the ridge.
Which doesn't surprise me in the least. It's pretty common in the 50s and 60s, honestly. This
isn't just like you going out and you see like a few little pieces of it tumbling around in the yard. Like,
no. This
is like the whole area just got covered in it.
Yeah, the entire fields were covered with this stuff sometimes.
It's just so weird. Like, how do you explain that? Like, what do you do with that? Because it's not like it's not like somebody was flying a plane over and just said, we're going to offload all of this tinsel.
Right.
How much of it? I don't know, like a ton. And just opened up the hatches.
What's weird about it, man, is that the stuff, and every one of these occasions, when someone went to pick it up, it just dissolved or disappeared in their hands.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's almost like it was, it's almost like being touched by human hands was some kind of corrosive reaction to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And typically, if you look it up today, if you look up angel hair on Wikipedia, the same tired excuse is given, and that is that it's spider webs. And one of those came from that explanation actually came from a letter from 1963. It was in a reply to a witness who had seen this stuff fall from the sky. And that was by the Natural History Museum in London, actually. And it reads something like this. Spiders are, I think, responsible for the phenomena you described. The majority of these particular spiders belong to the family Linephadae amature. In autumn, the spiders begin to disperse and migrate in order to colonize new areas where the food supply is greater. This method they use is known as ballooning, and as the sun dries off the dew, upward air currents are created, and the spider runs to the top of the plants and lifts the tip of the abdomen, emits a globule liquid silk, literally blows silk out. It's caught up into these massive long threads, and I've actually seen this.
Yeah, Australia has has a yearly passing of it, and they go through and burn it, and it burns off like instantly. But you can actually grab it in your hands and hold it in your hands. It's not.
But it's spider webs. Yeah, it's spider webs.
Right.
So he basically goes on to say that it was just spider webs, and a big lengthy, description of it being spider webs. But if you want it to be spider webs, that's wonderful. But I think the big problem with this is, and it's noted here, is that it doesn't. It does not explain the fact that spider webs don't disappear, like you said.
Yeah.
I mean, it may seem logical that this is what happens, and how he says it is these single strands, they go up and they come back down, and when the spider lands, wherever he wants to land, he cuts loose his little parachute and it drifts away.
Yep.
And we've seen these in the air before, and some of these actually do get photographs of them and reported as anomalous phenomena, and they are just spider webs blown in the wind. I have seen those many times. And then they'll mix with other ones, and pretty soon they make this weaving of massive amounts of spider webs that fall across the ground. Okay, that's fine and good. That's spider webs.
But it's obviously spider webs. Like when you look at it, it's like a massive spider web.
Well, when you touch a spider web, it sticks to you, right? It sticks to you. It's not.
And that's what causes them all to bundle together the way they do when they get on the ground.
Right. They do not just dissolve. So it's kind of a desperation, in my opinion, to write it off as just that. Also, this angel hair was seen in conjunction with UFO activity.
Yeah. That's what makes
times.
it different.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that these UFOs were seen around this area, and then when the people went out to investigate said area, that they discovered these carpet, essentially, of what got dubbed as angel hair, is it's really telling. It's not, to me, this is some kind of weird phenomena. As a naturalist myself, I've seen the spider webs. I've seen them.
Yeah.
And you can actually go YouTube the videos right now if you wanted to. There's dozens of them out there, and you can look up the migrating spiders. One of the other things you can look up is sling spiders, like where because that technique is called ballooning. It's called slinging. They're going to mass up. You'll see it. There'll be entire tree covered in the stuff, cars covered in it. And then they just go through with a little torch, and you can watch it all just burn in a single line real fast, and it goes away. It's pretty neat. But it's obvious that it's spider web. Like even in the video when you're watching, you're like, oh yeah, it's spider web. Not knowing anything about spiders, you could look at that and be like, oh, yeah, gosh, that's a lot of cobwebs. That's spider web.
Yeah.
That's totally different than what's being described here.
Well, and it happens a lot. Here's one from November 21st, 1898, when it was a material that resembled more like asbestos in texture. It fell on Montgomery, Alabama. There's flakes. There's inch long and several inches broad particles of this stuff that falls as well. It's not just little thin pieces of spider web. This is a material.
Well, not just that. The kicker for this specific event was that the material that fell was phosphorescent.
Yeah, that is a new twist on things, isn't it?
Right. Nothing that doesn't happen in a very airlight material. Naturally. You can find that in biological creatures, but you're not going to find it in these sheets and flakes of material. This is what this does sound like. It sounds like material.
It does. It absolutely does. We have another account. It was published in the Weather, 1949. Sunday, September 26, 1948, Port Hope. On this day was warm in the sky, cloudless. We had dinner in the garden, and I was lying on my back on the lawn, my head just in the shade of the house, when I started to see an object resembling a star moving rapidly across the sky. Time was 2:00 Eastern Standard. At first, it was easy to imagine the recent reports of flying saucers had not been exaggerated. More of these objects came sailing into view over the ridge of the house, only to disappear when nearly overhead. With field glasses, I was able to see that each was approximately spherical, the center being rather brighter than the edges. The glasses also showed quite a number of such height that they were invisible to the naked eye, with only a few flying in the sky. For comparison, I should estimate the elevation of the lower objects was 300 feet, the higher ones at 2,000. The size was about 1 foot in diameter and moving at about 50 miles per hour in the direction southwest to northeast. Also visible every now and then were long threads, apparently from spiders. Some of these were seen to be reflecting the light over a length of 3 or 4 yards. Each was more or less horizontal, moving at right angles to its length. In one case, an elongated tangled mass of these gave the appearance of frayed silken cord. These threads appeared only in the lower levels. It's reasonably certain that these objects were balls of spider threads, possibly with thistledown entangled in them, but the way in which they caught the ray of the sun and shone so brightly was very striking. So he basically saw these balls of spider web that were a foot in diameter, blowing in the sky at 50 miles per hour. From 300 feet to 2,000 feet up, I think that's
you'd have to have some pretty serious wind.
Yeah, you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, because these things have mass, regardless.
They do.
And the more
even at a foot across, like, they're still very light, but you've got to have some serious wind.
You have to have a serious.
If you've got something moving at 50 miles in the wind, your wind is going to be around 70 miles an hour.
And it's got to be moving. What do you say? In one direction too, not just straight up. So you've got to have a thermal updraft, plus you've got to have that crosswind.
You do, absolutely.
This is very unlikely.
The thermal updraft is extremely important in getting that ball of mass into the sky, and without that, you're not getting it up there. Just not happening.
Well, even if you did, it's going to come straight back down, right?
Right, it would. It would come back down at a slow descent, but it'd still come back down. And the fact that this thing was scooting at 50 miles an hour, and some at 300 and some at 2,000 feet. I mean, that's some serious wind. If you've got something that's moving something like that high, you really got something moving.
Yeah. So, I'm not really sure what to say about that one. That was just one person's. Really yeah, that was just one. This guy trying to explain these away. The next, I guess, phenomena related to all this is probably the more weird one, and we touched on it earlier.
Yeah, this is, I think, my favorite. Is we've got star jelly.
That needs to be a product, by the way.
It does.
Yeah.
It does need to be a product. We can make star jelly happen.
I think we're going to make that happen.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Wild Weird's new slime line. Star jelly.
Star jelly.
You heard it here first.
That's it.
So, star jelly, also called astromyxin or astromyxin and astral jelly, is a gelatinous substance sometimes found on grass or even on branches of trees. According to folklore, it is deposited on the earth during meteor showers. This is described as a translucent to gray-white gelatin that tends to evaporate shortly after having fallen. Explanations have ranged from it being the remains of frogs and toads or worms to the byproducts of cyanobacteria. Reports of the substance date back to the 14th century and have continued to present. Okay, knowing what we know about falling toads.
They're gross.
They're gross, but also they decay.
They do.
If you don't burn them, they might turn into a gelatinous gray goo.
But it's going to stink.
But oh my God, it's going to smell like death. Like, it's going to smell so bad. And there's no way that you would be able to confuse this. Like, you walk up to this gray goo, you'd smell it before you saw it, by the way. You would smell this whole area before you saw it.
Oh, yeah.
And you would go up to the goo, look at the goo, touch the goo, and you'd find bones.
I wouldn't touch the goo.
I'd touch the goo.
I would not touch the goo.
I would touch the goo.
No.
And you would find remains. Like on worms, you would still smell terrible. Decay, like you've opened up. Like, you and I are both fishermen.
Yeah, we know what dead things smell like.
Not just that, but I know good and well at least once in your life, you have left a can of night crawlers in your tackle box in the summer, gone back to said tackle box to go fishing the next time, open it up, only to be hit with the pungent smell that is death itself.
Yeah, it's true.
But they do turn into a weird gooey gray paste.
They really do. Yeah, it's true.
But it smells so bad.
And
it doesn't dissolve.
No,
it doesn't dissolve or evaporate.
No. So we have to not just throw out that little bit of evidence, because it's a consistent thing with this stuff.
It is.
We can't just say, a couple of cases.
So frogs, toads, and worms out. Even cyanobacteria, because you and I were also, this is just another thing that we've done. We've been in the aquarium hobby for umpteen trillion years.
Yeah,
we know what cyanobacteria is. Cyanobacteria doesn't dissolve, because if it did, it wouldn't be a problem. and this stuff dissolves. So it's not cyanobacteria.
Yeah. I don't know what this stuff is, but there are tons of accounts of this stuff. And I think that's the weirdest part. There have been reports of star jelly for centuries.
Yeah.
1280 to 1361. John Gaddison mentions Stella Terraria, Latin for star of the earth or earth star, in his medical writings, describing it as a certain mucilaginous,
mucus-like substance.
Yeah, it's mucus. It's a mucus-like substance lying on the earth, and suggesting that it might be used to treat abscesses. 14th century Latin medical glossary.
Okay, let's just talk about that for a second. Okay. like this goes back to when people first started foraging mushrooms and funguses.
Yeah.
Hey, that red one with the white speckles all over it. Red means danger, Will Robinson. Every other time we come across it in nature, let's take a bite out of this one.
Right.
5 minutes later, they're talking to God for 5 years.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. I just know that it seems to be common. And,
Well, this guy said, let's get this goo, this gelatinous mucusy goo. We're going to treat abscesses with it, right?
Yeah.
So we have these guys that back then, the first people to discover something. We could probably use this to treat this. Just like last week when we were talking to Brandon, and really, you got ghosts in your blood, Brandon.
Yeah.
We're gonna put some star jelly on it to make
it. That'll fix it. Why not?
Oh man. And so again, like you said, this stuff's been happening for centuries. We've been finding this stuff. Mm-hmm. Apparently you've treated abscesses with it. I don't know how well that worked.
I'm not sure how that would work at all.
The 14th century Latin medical glossary has an entry for eulio, described as a certain fatty substance emitted from the earth that is commonly called a star which has fallen.
Man.
So again, this goes back to directly saying that this was right after a meteor shower.
Yeah.
So
right. Exactly.
Is there weird, because there's a few things we got to look at here, right?
Mm-hmm.
One, when these meteorites enter the atmosphere, they create what we saw the other night.
Mm-hmm.
That bright, brilliant flash. The bright, brilliant flash generates a ton of heat. This gelatinous goo made it through the atmosphere with all that heat, lands on the earth, and then dissolves shortly after. Why wouldn't it have been burned up in the atmosphere?
I don't know. This is one of the weirder things. It really is. I mean, the whole jelly thing is weird because, the Oxford Dictionary, English Dictionary even lists it. A large number of other names for this substance, which were referenced dating back to circa 1440, English Latin Dictionary mentioned star fallen, star falling, star jelly, star shot, star slime, star sloth, star slubber, star spurt, and star slutch. I mean, they have a million names for it.
They do.
across multiple countries and across multiple languages and cultures. There was something here.
My favorite, though, my favorite name for it,
Star rot.
moon feces.
Oh, moon feces. I forgot about moon feces. Yes. Moon
Because back then,
feces.
people thought that moon could poop on us.
I mean, why not?
Why not, right?
It's up there.
I mean, if I saw this weird goo falling out of the sky, like I knew what I had for dinner looked like when it came out earlier.
Yeah.
And this is kind of what it looks like falling from the sky. Maybe the moon is pooping on us.
Yeah, moon feces.
but for real though, this is for real my favorite one because it's so anomalous, because it has such a long history, and it's been accounted for in these medical journals because they're finding it, going out, and they're like, we're going to use this for something. We don't know what, but it's probably going to be the next cure-all.
I mean, scoop it up and see what it does, right? Slather it on, see what happens.
Can you imagine the commercials if this was modern day?
Oh, jeez.
Do your joints and back pain bother you to the extent that you can't get out of bed in the morning? Just rub some moon feces on it.
Yeah.
And watch
star rot. Star jelly.
Dissolve away.
Wow. Yeah. I mean,
because that's really what they would have done. I mean, this was being used for medicinal reasons.
It was. Yeah. It was a new thing. So,
but what would I just keep seeing Caca de Luna in front of me, and I can't keep a straight face.
Caca de Luna. Yeah.
It's moon feces.
Moon feces. That's what that means. Caca de Luna.
Yeah. Oh, this is great.
Poop from the moon. So yeah, moon feces.
But for real though, like how this goes in, kind of like gives some credence to the whole like transportation of genetic material from other planets.
Doesn't it though?
I mean, like some form of terraforming. It could be possible.
It absolutely could be possible, because that's exactly what you would expect. Dropping off some this jelly. I mean, it's a perfect kind of conduit for bacteria.
Yeah, you basically treat your meteorite like a time release capsule. Once it enters the atmosphere and then it breaks up in the atmosphere, this gelatinous goo comes out and spreads itself across the planet.
Panspermia.
Because you got to think, like, just entertain this idea, guys. Entertain this idea. We're going to use this latest meteor as an example. This meteor was witnessed moving across the entire North American continent. It crossed
the eastern part of the continent, to be
the trajectory though, like it.
Yeah, it came
the trajectory of this thing.
It came in, yeah.
It came in and it moved across the entire North American continent, moving east. So like it crossed it horizontally. This thing, it left space jelly, it would have essentially deposited this goo in various locations across that entire entry point.
It could have, yeah. We saw pieces falling off of it.
That is the ideal way if we were to try to terraform something without having biospheres or anything like that already established. If you were sending some kind of genetic material to a planet that was hospitable, but you wanted to add some of this specific modification, and you didn't have the means to maybe hop in a spaceship and travel there, or you just didn't want to. You didn't want to get out that far, so we're just going to put it on a rock and trajectory blast it this direction and use that meteorite as a delivery form. I know it sounds crazy. It sounds absolutely bonkers. But is it?
I think it would be possible.
Ancient astronaut theorists would say it's believable.
It's possible. Yeah, it's totally possible. And the seeding of Earth, or the continued seeding of Earth, I should say, upgrades. These kind of things. Sure, it's possible. Science
Well,
says, otherwise, but,
we
you
had
know,
we had talked about this previously, and I can't remember if it was on the show or just me and you talking. But we were talking about how some of the, and I know this specific piece has been mentioned on the show, but how the first signs of life would be mentioned, they'd be microbes.
mhm,
And we've found these microbes on the remains of these meteorites and asteroids. Who's to say that this wasn't the same material?
right.
You know, who's to say it wasn't those microorganisms? And this is their single cell form, was this goo. And when they get here, it just does its thing.
Right. I mean, sure.
You know?
I mean, yeah, it makes sense to me. I mean, I don't know what this stuff is. Science says that, one of the theories is that it's most likely formed from the glands in the oviducts of frogs and toads. There's those frogs and toads again. Birds and mammals eat the animals, but not the oviducts, which, when they come into contact with moisture, swell or distort, leaving a vast pile of jelly-like substance, sometimes also referred as otter jelly.
Okay, yeah, like I've seen this, okay? I have seen this. What's called otter jelly, and it's basically the oviducts of these creatures. The tender bits on the inside that they don't want to eat.
Uh-huh.
And it's not like what's being described.
Right. That's what I'm getting at.
It's totally not. But it is, I can see why they would try to use this excuse. But again, we go back to that rank odor, because this otter jelly, these still are organic material. They're developed organic organs that are regurgitated or excreted, and they smell like it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, for instance, we're going to go back to the abscess thing. An abscess is an open sore on your body. Generally, if you have an abscess, something happens along the way, especially back then. You get abscesses, you die. And these abscesses get infected. The last thing you want to do is put something that smells like you're already rotting flesh on the rotting flesh.
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense to me.
No, you wouldn't do that. Like, that just, even back then, they're like, no, this would be bad. So what is it about this substance that would have caused him to think, hey, let's use this to treat this? Some of the people who have found this stuff, they also mention that it's odorless.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we keep going back to the smell thing. It doesn't have a rank, nasty odor. It's just goo.
It's goo. Yeah. It's an unknown goo. And here's another one. This is a famous one, by the way. This was from 1950. Police officer John Collins and Joe Keenan, they were cruising the streets of Philadelphia in the patrol car on the night of September 26, 1950, as they made their way down a quiet side street near Vera Avenue, 26th Street. Their headlights picked up a strange shimmering object that seemed to be coming to Earth in an open field. About half a block from them, when they went to investigate with their flashlights, they revealed a dome disc of quivering purple jelly, 6 feet in diameter, 1 foot thick near the center, and an inch or two at the edge. They had a curious feeling that the thing was alive, and they turned off their flashlights. They saw that it glowed with a faint purple light. Again, it's luminous. Another one of those. And they radioed back for help. They were soon joined by Sergeant Joe Cook and Patrolman James Cooper. Sergeant Cook suggested that they try to pick the thing up, but when Officer Collins attempted to do this, it fell apart in his hands like gelatinous material. The fragments that stuck to his hands soon evaporated, there's that again, leaving behind only a sticky, odorless scum. Within half an hour after Cook and Cooper arrived on the scene, the whole thing had completely evaporated. Incidentally enough, this incident inspired the 1958 movie The Blob, by the way.
And that's why it was colored the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
In the color rendition.
Mm-hmm. Right, the purple.
So this star jelly, again, we have police officers stating odorless. And there are some weird phenomena that do take place with single-cell organisms, but you're only going to find these on the sides of lakes, freshwater bodies. But they'll stay there for days. They don't
Mhm.
evaporate instantly. They're mildly odorous. They will fall apart in your hands when you pick them up, and they can be stained whatever color the water is. So if you have a lot of tannins in your water, so like leaf debris and whatnot, you're going to have kind of a brown maroon looking blob.
Mhm.
But this stuff doesn't dissolve. You drop it on the ground, it's going to stay on the ground. It can sometimes stay there for days depending on the humidity in the area. So it's not that stuff.
Right.
It's not that single cell organism. This stuff dissolves in front of them.
Yeah. Another one,
They witnessed
1952.
its breaking down.
Yeah, there's another one from 1952. This one was Saint Marie in the French Pyrenees. This time it came from a cigar-shaped object, and it was a substance like gossamer that was falling. When they went to collect the samples, it turned gelatinous and sublimated. Again, it disappeared. Another one, a light crossed the night sky over the Irish county of Westmeath in February of 1958 and was seen to land in a field. A number of people rushed to the landing site where they found only a massive gelatinous material.
It's just so strange. And it's because I think the reason I'm so fascinated by this is because none of the natural explanations make sense.
No, not on this one.
None of them make sense. And is it possible that this is happening, that this goo is created whenever something leaves orbit, or comes into orbit even?
Mm-hmm.
Is it some kind of weird spectral supernatural ooze?
Right.
You know, it was postulated in the canonical history of Ghostbusters.
Right. Well, no, ectoplasm is actual, it's really reported. I mean, that was,
it is,
since the old spiritualist movements, people would swear that they had pictures of ectoplasm coming out of these people. It was typically just cotton and fake photography, but, it is what it is. I mean, sure, there's the possibilities. So, I mean, there's multiple examples of this stuff. I mean, we could just go on for days and days, but what could some of the possibilities of this be? I mean, you just mentioned supernatural pretty much. I mean, that's, the possibility that this is a paranormal phenomena, that it's coming from some, unknown entity, I guess, we've already talked about storms. Obviously, storms can account for some of the stuff, but not this gelatinous material. Gelatinous material, I don't have it. No, I have no answer for this. Could it be extraterrestrial in nature? Could it be extraterrestrial in nature? Yeah. Why not?
I lean a hard yeah.
Why not? I mean,
and it's weird. Our listeners are probably like, wait, what?
because it's the only
rare
thing that makes sense.
Yeah, it's really rare that's the first thing I'm like, oh yeah, aliens and this is definitely one of the things I'm right. Yes. Yeah. Yes, aliens for the Star Valley, because I have no other explanation for it. Well, like there's nothing else that even comes close to making sense.
No, because it happened in such a time where we didn't even have air travel, so we can't say there was some scientific experiment, some government experiment where they were dropping stuff, or whatnot on the public. This happened ages and ages before we ever had anything in the air. I mean, at least in our modern time, but, and then there's the, quantum spillover theories. Could it be, the two dimensions kind of coexisting for a second, and then, one piece comes from another one and is here. That's more like an aport kind of thing to me.
Right.
It's not so much that, I mean, I guess.
I mean, you'd have to be coming from a dimension that's like ooze. Everything there is ooze.
Again, I think that would, that would only, in my opinion, be a useful explanation if we're talking about the Skyfalls.
Right.
That
would make sense for all the frogs.
Yeah. The frogs, all that stuff. Sure. The meat, there's meat. There's all kinds of stuff that's falling from the skies. So
yeah, the weird. Oh man, I remember us having that episode where we talked about the meat falling from the sky. That was a trip.
Yeah. That's actual, another account too. But it doesn't. Again, we come back to the great mystery of star jelly. And star jelly, to me, I have no explanation for this stuff. This is a true enigma, like a true enigma. We can't just say, oh, well, that was a hoax. No, because it's got its origins so far back in the past that it just seemed to be a common thing at some point.
Right.
Right? I mean, again, it's been shoveled up, it's been burned, it's been, thrown away. Here's some cases from 1835, 1841, 1857. I'm not going to read them to you. I'm just going to tell you 1860, 1891. And do you know that there has been falls of star jelly as recent as 2012?
Yeah, in Scotland.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the most recent one. And again, it was just kind of glossed over because this stuff happens and it's weird.
Well, the weird one about that one was upon further analysis, it was proved to be a sodium polyacrylate, a kind of super absorbent polymer with a variety of common, including agriculture uses. They were most likely already present on the ground, according to what these people had said, that it wasn't anything, basically. This was just the modern equivalence of, what was the first explanation they gave, just to kind of brush it away?
It's all spiders.
Yeah, it's just spiders. It's just another.
Or the toads or whatever. Yeah, because they do put that stuff in. What they're talking about is the absorbent material that's also in diapers.
Yeah, it's the stuff you can buy it. You can buy it
Yeah.
at craft stores now. The little spherules that you just drop in water and they, swell up. But no one had that stuff in the 1600, guys. That's what I'm going to get at here with this. So,
And that stuff doesn't dissolve or go away either.
No, it doesn't.
Like it'll reduce back to its natural size, but it won't dissolve.
Yeah, and so really what we're coming down to is these people are trying their best to explain away as fast as they can just certain elements of this, the color, the size, the shape, and then they ignore some of the more important parts of it, the dissolving, for example, or the luminosity.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm at a complete loss with star jelly. If you guys have any ideas what it was, or if you know of any stories, I would love to hear it.
Have any of you guys experienced any kind of weird sky falling material? If you have, reach out to us at wildandweirdwv@gmail.com. We'd love to hear it because it's a fascinating. Can I speak? My tongue's
I don't know.
A fascinating topic. It's just really weird, It
is weird.
Just get a hold of us. We want to hear about your weird encounter with some kind of, moon feces.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Does it cure your joint pain?
Caca de Luna.
But guys, for real, we want to hear from you guys. If you've had any kind of weird, strange sky stuff falling in your lawn, or you've heard stories firsthand yourself, go ahead and share those with us. Drop them down in the comments. Shoot us an email. And because right now, I mean, I'm drawing all aliens when it comes to it.
Yeah. I'm going there too. I'm with you on that.
So
aliens.
I think that's going to wrap us up for tonight, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us and joining us on this wacky and weird and wild topic of skyfalls, because it's been a fun one. Remember, you've seen this number. You've seen the number that Ron said. Come after it. Your prize is awaiting. So if you are listening, go do the thing. Tell your friends, tell your family, because we want to catch you guys out on the leaderboards. And currently, to do our leaderboard rundown, in the national lineup, we have the United States at number 1, the United Kingdom following close behind, Australia, Canada, and Germany. That's our top 5. Ireland, you guys are neck and neck with Germany. You can take Germany out of the number 5 position and creep your way into the top 5. Really easy. All you guys have to do is just tell a couple of your friends, and you can take that spot. So if you're from Ireland and you're listening to the show, shoot us an email. We'd love to hear from you. It'd be great to hear from you guys and hear what you think of the show. And if you have any show recommendations, shoot them our way. We'd love to hear them. Next, going into the city by city poll. I'm actually pretty proud of this one. Now, number 1, We're going to get to you. Sarasota, Florida, you guys kind of dropped down a little bit. You were at number 5. Columbus, Ohio is at number 3. New York coming in. Guess who's at number 2? Charleston, West Virginia.
Oh, good. They're back.
In our hometown. We have listeners in our hometown again that are climbing the polls. And number 1 for the second week in a row. You guys held the title for 6 weeks straight. Now you're back in the polling position again. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You guys are awesome. If you're listening to the radio show and you are from Pittsburgh, give us a shout. We'd love to hear from you guys. Seattle, Washington, guys, y'all got to get back out there. Got to get back out on top. Y'all, you got to climb back up. Got to get back up, guys. Get on it. Dag on it. Tell your friends and family. Wild and Weird Radio is the place they need to be. All right. So I think that wraps us up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was a fascinating topic, one we've actually played around with trying to do for a while and just never had time to do it. So it was really fun to do.
It was. Well, guys, thanks for listening. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Go follow us on YouTube and all the social media places. Hit the notification bell on YouTube. That way you're notified of every drop of content that we release. And remember, Luna de Caca is coming for you. Keep your eyes peeled on the sky, because you never know when the weird gelatinous space goo is coming for you. Stay wild and weird, everybody.